in my code editor, I have the index file. And as you can see, the very first thing, it's a PHP include line. So WordPress works over PHP. And you don't have to know a lot of PHP to make your own theme, but you have to know a little bit, because that's the way WordPress put everything together. And in this case, the very least minimum thing you need to have a WordPress theme is an index file, a header file, probably a sidebar, and a footer, which I'm not using on this template, but you need the files here. Okay? So as you can see, there are only a few files for this template, and the reason that you separate files in different other files is to make your code simpler. So if I open the header that I have it open here. I'm going to put it right by the way. You see that this is actually HTML. So what we're doing with WordPress themes is that you build a web page and then you chop it up in different pieces that are going to be put together back by WordPress. And the reason you do that is that you're going to have several different templates, but if they all use the same header, whenever you want to make a small change, you do it on one file. And then all the other 3, 4, or whatever number of files use that header, they call it, and you don't have to edit multiple files. Does it make sense? Okay.
What's the difference between a get header and then having an include file?
It's technically the same. The difference is that this get header is a WordPress function that's built into WordPress, so you don't actually have to type PHP include and call the file. Yeah. So because WordPress works with PHP, you get every PHP function plus WordPress built-in functions. And that's why I try not to use the word template, because you get WordPress template tags. Okay? So the other thing about having this separate is that you can actually call them only when you want them. Okay? So for instance, I could say within the sidebar, and I'm going to go to the sidebar here. What you have is a very small part of the page. I'm on the home page, but load this other sidebar if I'm on a different page. Okay? So for the very most basic template, you need the header, the content, and within the header, there's a very small line that you don't want to forget, and that's this line. This line that goes within the header again tells WordPress plugins where to hook their style sheets. So if you're using a plugin, you need this WP head line function, so other plugins know where to actually output their code. And the same happens for the footer. So in my template, because I didn't want to use an HTML footer, I just have to remember to put this function by myself. Okay? Sorry. This function. If you download any theme for WordPress, you will have all of this, because it will not work if you don't have the header and the footer. So let's build a template, okay? I'm gonna go in my admin page to the actual pages and show you how it works. For this website, I had only 3 pages. I had a lot of posts. The actual objects that I was selling, they were posts. But I had only 3 pages. Write to us, because we're selling everything, and some other page. So if I go to the website here, I have a menu linking to one of those pages, actually to 2 of them, to the contact or write to us to the some other pages. And can you notice there's something up here? No, you know. Okay, there's a really light gray link up here that when I click it, it opens, it displays this window. So we have 3 places, and I did this on purpose, 3 places where I'm loading static pages. This is the regular way of doing it. So you have a page you can go to through a menu, but the one I had up here is not. So I'm going to open this page, the other page on the editor, so we can see which goes into which part. Okay. So there we have it. We have the title and the content here, and we have the title and the content there. Okay. The thing about pages that Post doesn't have is that you can make pages a hierarchy by themselves. So you can have a parent page and child pages and siblings within the pages. Okay. In this case, I have no hierarchy. Whenever you build, again, like a more static website, you might need those. So, for example, you might want to say about us, and then within that about us, you want to build a page for the team. You would put that inside. And the reason you would do that is because you would get the URL showing how deep your content is. Because WordPress heavily relies on the URL structure. So you would have your website.com/aboutus/team, right? In this case, I'm not going to use the hierarchy, so I'm going to leave it like that. But this is very important. Here, I have only one template additionally loaded in my theme, and it's called Escríbenos, write to us. I'm going to open this file on the editor so we can see what it takes, okay? So I know this is the one, and as you can see here, this is like any regular file, but it has this first line at the beginning. This is just a PHP comment, and you could have it this way, okay? But WordPress knows that whenever you have a comment at the beginning of a file and it says template name, it's going to take this thing over here and display it to you over here, okay? When we do this, when I click here that I'm going to use this template and I update, instead of using the default display structure, it's going to use this page, this very page. So for example, if I change something within here, get in touch, and I save, and then I go to my web page and I reload, did you see how it all changed?
Yeah.
So now I have these really strange things because I have the content over here with this thing. That's weird. I have the content again over here, and I have a web form. Why is that? Because if I go to my code again and we start navigating through it, we'll see what it happens. So first I have this H5 with the get in touch that it's over here. So I lost the title page. I lost the actual title page. Then there's a paragraph tag. This says this is just HTML. But then I have a WordPress tag. And this tag called the excerpt, what does it takes the content, makes a summary. Actually, it chops the first few 300 characters and it displays the excerpt. And then I actually had hard-coded a web form. We have here form, we have here input. So I'm going to make a copy of this template and start modifying it a little bit. So I'm going to do save as. And I'm going to call it drive-by. So I have now a file called drive-by, but I need to change it here. So I'm going to say drive-by, and I save it. So if I go back to my WordPress admin and I reload the page, there we have a new template.
So we should do it.
Yeah. So because, for example, you already developed the website, you have the HTML pages. So whenever you want some specific content to have some specific way of look or some specific display, you make a template for that content, right? So I have my new template here, drive by, and I'm going to update. So then I can go back to the code and I can say, you know what? I don't need the form. I'm going to take it out. That's it. And I want the title to be more relevant, so I'm going to do an H2. And I'm going to do an H2 because I actually want to have an H1 element, which is the title of the content. So I could actually say, what was the name of the thing? Some other page. I could actually say some other page. But this doesn't make much sense because that means that I can't reuse this template for a different content. So what I want is a way to get here. How do I get to this piece of content? And this is where, again, the power of WordPress template tags comes into play. So I have template tags. Whenever you need to find something about WordPress, the WordPress documentation is called codex. And in the codex, you get all the template tags that you can use to access information within a content, a WordPress content. So for example, let me find, I can get information about the author. I can get information about the category a content is attached to, about the comments, the links, the post. And for this case, the post and the page are quite similar. So for instance, what if I wanted to get the title? That's pretty obvious, the title. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to say, you know what, I don't want to hard code the code. I'm going to use a PHP WordPress tag called the title. And that's it. So if I do this, here, and I close the H1, there. I save the file. So when I refresh my page, instead of this and this, remember we took this out, I'm going to get the actual title of the page, plus that get in touch text that we left there. Yes? Makes sense? So I can keep doing things. So we can see that I have the excerpt here, and I have the content here. This particular theme has a CSS, a cascading style sheet information that's telling that if I have a div with contact info, it's going to move it to the right, and it's going to be a thin column. That's what we have here. Okay. So this is the excerpt, and this is the content, and I'm going to use it. I'm going to swap them so it makes a little bit more sense. So I'm going to take this out of here. I'm going to put it over here, and I'm going to take the content and move it to the main area of this template. I removed the P tags because the content has its own HTML formatting. The excerpt does not. Okay, so I actually might need to put it over here. That's it. I found out by using it. Yeah. So whatever you type here, if I don't type an excerpt by myself, WordPress is going to get the first few 300 characters, and you can customize that. Strip it out of any HTML formatting, strip out of any links, strip it out of everything, just plain text, and use it as the excerpt. But if I want to, I can type my own short text about this piece. Okay? So if I update, it's auto-updated actually, and then I reload the page. There we have the actual content and the short excerpt. So this is actually a way of hacking a little bit with WordPress, because The extrovert is not intended for you to do this, but you can do it anyway. What you can actually do is, for instance, you could have it's not here. Custom fields here. So I could have a custom field named description, name people that join me on this project, name additional images, and then within the template, start calling those specific custom fields. And that's a really powerful thing, because we're not bound to only having a title and a content. You can actually build, if you want, a second title, a subtitle, a tagline, whatever you want, and you can build it into WordPress. So I'm going to go over a little bit more about these kind of things, the template tags, and then I'm going to step a little bit back and I'll show you another thing. There are lots of template tags. As you can see, I'm typing PHP tags for every line. That's because most of my content is HTML. I could do it the other way around. I could do everything on PHP, and whenever I wanted to do just HTML, I could use a PHP tag to echo. It's like when we do println in processing. It's the same thing. But because most of my templates are HTML, I just include the PHP tag. So what are the things you can do? You can say the author, right? So what if I wanted to display who created that code? So I just save, and when I go over here and I reload the page, there you go. The author is called admin. That's myself, right? And the same way we have the author, I'm going to go to WordPress template tags, and I'm going to do a find on the page. Okay, there's a whole bunch of author tags here. So I don't want the username. Let me get, I think there's an author name. There. Oh, that's for the comments. As you can see, there's tons of tags. I don't know them all, of course, but you can go through these codex template tags, and you can, most of the times, get everything you want out of these tags, okay? So with the tags, you go into the content and extract different attributes of the content. Who wrote it? When did you write it? Does the content belong to a category? Does the content have some tags? Does the content have some images? Whatever you want.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
How are you editing it here, saving it already is like live?
Because the website is running from my computer.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Okay, so a quick look into that. OS X has Apache web server built into it. It has PHP installed, but it's disabled by default. You edit a config file and you have PHP running. And you can install, where is it? MySQL, a MySQL database here. So you can actually have a full web server on your computer. It's so much faster to do this way. Yeah. So I don't have to be uploading files to the web server all the time. Yeah. And it works great in my case because I don't know why I cannot access my ITP server from outside school. So if you go to sharing, you know what? If you have Mountain Lion, this is hidden. If you have Lion or any previous version of OS X, if you go to sharing, you're gonna have a web services or web sharing thing here. In Mountain Lion, they took it off, so you would have to go to the terminal, and I'm not very well versed about this, but Apache CTL something I can find about this and email you the link, but
Okay.
you can get the web server running on your computer very easy. If not, and that was the harder but most powerful way, I would recommend using MAMP. MAMP is a software you download, and it's called MAMP because it has MySQL. No, it's Mac, Apache, MySQL, PHP. So you have a web server in one application. Okay. Okay. So back to the template. We were looking at very specific elements of the page here, but the key, and this is truly the key about WordPress, is something called the WordPress loop. And the loop is controlled by these two lines over here. So whenever you call any file within WordPress, it's going to ask the database if there are any posts or any content, because you can actually have no content. It might sound silly at the beginning, because if you're building a website, of course you have content, but this is a computer, it doesn't understand when you're not very, very specific. So this is actually saying, is there any post saved in the database? And the answer is, of course, yes, there is. So then the next line says, okay, while we have posts, or this might be like, for I, int I equals 0, we know this, right? As long as I is less than has posts, right? But it doesn't work with this. Okay, so while we have posts, I'm gonna get the object, the single object called post, and then do everything here. This is a page template, so it's only gonna run once. But if this was a post template, like the one I have, I'm gonna open the index file. I'm gonna open the index file. So this is my index file. This is the one that goes over here. So we see here that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this, while have post, is running 8 times. So are there any posts? Yes. Okay, while there are posts, get every single element, and for every single element, execute this code up to here. So in this case, it's saying, okay, for the first element, I'm checking, does it belong to the category ventas? Yes, okay, do this. Remember when I changed at the beginning the name of the category to sales? That's why it didn't work, because I have it hard-coded here.
So you have to change it.
Yes. So that leads me to another interesting thing about WordPress. In WordPress, you can do lots of things by the name, or you can do them by the ID. And everything has an ID. Every post, every page, every category, everything has an ID. How do you find out about that ID? I'm going to go to post, categories. Well, actually up here in the URL. So that page I was editing was the ID number 107. My ventas category, if you look at the bottom of the page, at the status bar, you can see that the tag ID is number 1. I'm going to click it so you have it on the URL up here, ID number 1. So whenever I said if in category ventas, I could also say if it was in category 1. This is very useful if you're going to reuse your templates on different websites, because you don't have to change the name. But at the same time, I find it very useful to use names on the code, because it's easier to understand what's going on, right? So I'm gonna stick with ventas for now. So the most important thing about WordPress is the loop. And when you call the loop, you get every post that belongs to the website. And then you can start doing some filtering. You can have multiple loops. So in one page, here I have only one loop, and it's getting all my content. And then I'm filtering. So then I'm saying, after you got all the content, only show me the content that belongs to that specific ventas category. If you want me, I could actually change that so it only shows blog category, right? So I'm going to do it here. Blog. If I do this and I save, and then I update, on my home page, I'm only getting 2 contents that belongs to the blog, right? Is it clear about the loop? So, one important, okay, and this is also very important to understand how this thing works, because I've been changing templates and parts of the website, and I didn't show you actually this, which is how WordPress decide what file to call. When I was editing code over here, we were editing this temp drive-by file, and then I moved to the index. How does WordPress know what file to call? That is called the template hierarchy, and that is also very important to understand. So if I go to the template hierarchy on the website, you can read all of this. That's useful, but it's even better if we understand this diagram. That seems complex, but it's actually not that complex. So let me open this on preview so we can go through. For me, once I understood this diagram, it opened so many possibilities within WordPress. This is the thing that allows you to have specific templates for specific contents. Okay? So let's make this bigger. When you type a URL, when you go to the web page, the service is asking this question: what page are you asking for? If your theme is the most very simplest theme of all, you will always go to the index file. But if you happen to have, for example, a file called single.php, whenever you go to a post content, it's going to be displayed using the single template or the page template. If you go to a monthly, this is WordPress specific. If you go to a date page, like mysite.com/2013/01 for January, it's going to go to an archive. And an archive is a collection of things. So this is basically a list of links to different posts. This is very useful if you want to have a portfolio, because your portfolio is one kind of archive. It's only showing some specific category of posts, the posts within the category portfolio. There's a search template, and there's an error page. And then you can start being more specific. And when I say this, you're going to tie it back with the example I have here. So, for example, I can have a page template. It's only going to be used when WordPress is asked to display a page content. But then I can get more specific. I can say page-an ID, or page-Slack, or the name of the page. So I'm going to go back to the code here. Remember when I opened this one, TMP template, and here, and I put this specific name? Mm-hmm. This is because I wanted to have that specific template. But if I want all the other pages to have a template, I have page.php here. Right? Mm-hmm. What happens if I have a page called help, and I want that page to have a specific display? It's as easy as having this page help. So if you have a page called help and you have a file called page-help, that content is going to be displayed using this file.
So you need the word page before help for it to be called help?
Yes.
Oh.
So, for example, the content page, the contact page here is a page, not a post, and it's called Escríbenos, write to us. If I call this template Escríbenos, this is the file that's going to be used to display this content.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens the same with posts. For instance, if I go into this post, I'm going to go back to the image. So what if I wanted to display a post? A post is displayed using the single file. So then I can be more specific. I can say single post. I can say single post type. For example, I could say here single ventas.
Mm-hmm.
Or single, no, actually ventas is the category. I could say single post, single my custom type. What if it's an image? What if it's a video? I could do it using the attachment.php. So if you follow the path from left to right, you can be as specific as you need to with the template.
So post starts with single rather than and page starts with page. Is that
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that's the key. Yeah, you got it. Yes. Yeah, this is the most confusing part, I think, because this is the way that the WordPress software navigates through the website. There are some others, for example, home. And home is it's not actually a piece of content like a single post. Home is the way you set up your blog to behave whenever you go to the root of the domain. So home here is what happens where within WordPress, in the settings, you specify where your address is, or where your front page is. For example, I want the content page, the contact page, to be my home page. This is tricky. Okay, this is tricky because now I change. If I click, so if I click on my link, or if I click on home, or if I actually just type, did you see that I got to this page that we already knew it was called the contact page, but that is not on the URL anymore? Mm-hmm. That's because we're telling WordPress to use this page that could be deep down in the hierarchy, to use it as a home page. Mm-hmm. And it changed the URL structure. So whenever you make a menu, try to use relative addresses. Relative means that if I want something to be on the home page, I just put a slash. If I actually hard coded the menu to go to the address, whenever I change settings, it messes everything up. Okay. So once you learn to navigate through this template hierarchy, you can get any content to be displayed using any template you want. And I think I'm going to go over one additional thing, and then we can go over some specific questions you might have. Some of the functionalities. So I was telling you at the beginning that you can use plugins to extend functionality. You can use a file called functions.php to extend functionalities. And one of those functionalities is actually the WordPress menu. And this, I think this will help you solve your problem.
Yeah.
For this specific template, I have set up only one menu called primary navigation, and as you can see here, I have a home, contact, other page, sales, and blog.
Mm-hmm.
And this one matches home, content, other page, sales, and blog. So if I change this, for instance, like that, I reorder the things here, and I go here.
My problem is actually styling it,
There.
because I figured how to
Oh, okay.
move it around.
Okay.
It's more the styling.
So when you use WordPress to create the menus, this is so slow. Here. You have, okay, I'm going to show you where the menu is, and then we will understand the code here. So I know, because I built this, that the menu tag is on the sidebar. So it's here, right? So I know that I coded by myself the menu wrapper, then the ID main menu, then the UL. And then whatever I put on the menu is going to be a list element. Okay? So we have there the menu wrapper, the ID, the UL, and then I get another container called menu primary navigation container. This name comes from here. See, primary navigation.
Mm-hmm.
So if I change the name of the menu here, it's gonna change here. I'm sorry. It's gonna change the class here.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of the things you can actually use to style the menu. So you can say, whenever I have a div dot menu primary navigation container, which has an li element, you can style it some way.
Yeah.
WordPress goes one step beyond that, and it actually gives you these full classes for that specific li element. So this is a menu item, but this is also a menu item linking to a type post type. And it's also a menu item object for a page. And it's also a menu item 109 if you want to be really specific.
Mm-hmm.
So I could, in the CSS, I could say, if I have a li, how do you say li element? Li element with the class menu item 109, put it with a red background. You could be that specific. And then you have the link element inside. So you have to check within your template if you're actually getting all of these specific classes.
Mm-hmm.
You don't always get them.
Yeah.
It depends on the functions of your template, of your
Mm-hmm.
theme. Okay? So here.
So if you edit, because I had trouble where I've been trying to edit, just make the width smaller, and it wasn't.
You want the width of everything to be bigger?
Yeah, I think basically what happened is there's with all the bids, there's
Mhm.
the two sidebars are so big that like actually supposed to be smaller. But I think so maybe what it means is I wasn't being specific enough.
Let me see at your website again. So, right?
Yeah, but I think so.
Okay, so show me a page where you can actually, where you can actually see the problem with the width.
Oh, go to the top right one. Related to that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why you see March. So see how it's March and February? And then, so all those images are actually compressed. And I want them to be wider.
Okay, so this image is compressed?
Yeah, I think it's making all of these smaller.
Okay, so this might be several things.
And also the top. See how it's all over here at the top?
So quick question. when you uploaded the image, is the image actually bigger than this? I mean, are we losing part of the image already? For example, is the image a rectangle and WordPress is cropping up the image?
I think it's squishing it.
Okay, so if it's just squishing, it's a CSS problem.
Yeah.
So let's do the same thing here. Inspect. So here, there's a very general style called IMG that's defining that every image is going to be 626 by 462. Yeah. Search for this within your CSS file. And the other thing to look into is within WordPress, settings, media. Yes. And there you can set up the size you want the images to be. That might help. Okay? Okay, so just to have it on the video as a quick closing thing for it. The two most important things you have to look into is understanding the hierarchy. So whenever you go to one page, you know how to navigate through WordPress templates and actually build files that reflects this structure. The other thing is to remember that whenever you want to load something, you have to go through the loop. You can have multiple loops on one page, so you can actually have one page with one category here and one category over there. We didn't go into the specifics of how to manage that loop, but at least we already know that there's a loop in place. Within the loop, once you're within the loop, there are the template tags, and the template tags are the functions that let you get specific elements of each content. So within the template tags, you could ask to display the title of the post or the images attached to the post, or if there are any comments to something or not. And within that loop and within that template tags, you can use PHP to build up some small functions, some if-else statements, some variables you might need, etc. Then we also said that WordPress had, by default, 3 content types, 3 post types: the posts, the pages, and the links. You can build your own post types, and that's really useful. The hierarchy system that WordPress uses is the taxonomy system is based on categories and tags. Categories can be hierarchical, and you can attach one post, one content to different categories. Tags, by default, are not hierarchical, but the good thing about tags is that it's very easy to see how many elements belong to that. Cloud tags are very useful in that sense. And I think that's what we saw. I mentioned the functions file, but we didn't get into that. We saw the menu and how to manage files within the WordPress menu with not very much detail. Yeah, I think that's it. Well, it's a lot of things to be talking about in 1 hour, but if there's anything else I can help you with, we can try this again, or we can say it right now.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.